Oh, I know it's a miracle. We're actually on time.
I don't think it's a miracle.
It's exactly 7:30.
We've just made.
And I need a Kleenex right now. All of a sudden, I hit go video, and my nose is running.
It's classic. It's how it works every time.
Let me
Every time we start. And this is why we're always late.
Thank
We're always
you.
late because inevitably something goes wrong. And this time we started on time. And instead of us having the problem before we started, now we're having the problem when we're live.
Yeah.
As always, we appreciate you joining us tonight. I see we got 4 or so of us out there. It is a very light question night.
Yeah.
Not very many of you have participated in our QA forum. You haven't answered or asked very many questions, so we will most likely be asking for a lot of participation from the crowd, to put it kindly.
Yeah, those are coming. Feel free to start.
So yeah, I mean, as you go, if you have,
thank you.
Okay, you're gonna lay some tissues there. As we go along, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to throw it in the comments. It's almost a sure thing we'll get to them tonight, just because we've got so few questions. We actually only have about 5 or 6 questions in total.
Okay. Hi, Barbara. How are you? And hello, Beverly from Texas.
What part of Texas, Beverly? This east side, west side? Because you know he's from Texas.
Yeah.
West side.
Barely.
Hey, well, that's almost Mexico. You're barely from America. Almost from El Mexico.
Yeah.
So, Ron, do you have anything you want to follow up on?
I was going to look in here and see.
Okay. Well, for those of you that are just joining us now, Susan, good to have you.
North Carolina.
Yeah. Must be good out there. I don't know.
I don't know. That's probably hot
humid
out
and
there.
hot.
Yeah, probably hot.
East Texas, Longview.
Longview. Yeah.
All right. It's that time of year. It's hot, humid.
It's hot.
Hot and humid. I tell you what, it's been hot here. We haven't had it. They were talking about it on the news last night. We haven't had a day that's gone below, even in the evening, below 70 degrees in, what was it, almost 20 days that it hasn't gone below 70-something degrees at night.
Yeah, that's unusual.
It's unusual for us. We're usually the type of place because we're such a high climate that we end up with, 100 degrees in the day and then dropping down to 50 at night.
Yeah, cool nights.
We haven't gotten there. I don't know what's up. What's up? I mean, Tupperware, I guess. Nothing?
Tupperware's up?
Well, that's a Tupperware, he's holding all the heat in. Something going on.
I see.
You didn't get that, huh?
No.
Right over your head.
No.
I see.
Let's see.
Well, while he's finishing up,
got an email
we got some more. I'm just going to keep
saying.
saying this for those of you that are joining us now. Just keep in mind that we've only got. I got 3
We got a
new
few questions, so please
I don't even know
feel free to ask
I don't
questions.
even know what these are. I think those might have already been answered, actually. So we might only have 3 questions in the QA. So if you want to ask questions in the comments, participate. This could be a very engaging live tonight. We can get the live experience. So, you got something there?
No, I forgot to check this one out.
Okay. So we just get started then? We're going to go on for...
Hold on.
Okay, still digging. This man in his email, I tell you what, he's got too many of them. Too many of them, but he responds to each one. That's what's cool. From Denver. I lived out there for a while.
Loved it.
Yeah.
Where in Denver?
Yeah, we're in Denver.
Yeah, we're in
Brian.
Denver, Brian. Have you done DNA yet?
Like regular Denver or Thornton or
Yeah, he says near Denver.
Arvada or
Something. Ooh, Susan, I am sorry. High 80s with 100% humidity in North Carolina.
Oh, that's bad.
I'm so sorry.
Unless you're into that.
Ugh. Well, we can send her up to the mountains. It was very nice up here on the mountains when we went away the weekend.
Oh, Jody did DNA. Yeah, I mean, I think I have never tried it, but others have.
Barbara Fox says somebody put in
Arvada.
showed how to use FamilySearch, and I showed a woman her dashboard. On the site, there was a notice on the side that read, "Please don't add murderers to our family." Yeah, there was that actually got up in good satisfaction. What happened is there was somebody who, not a direct family member, found a picture of the father.
Okay.
And attached it to the family because he knew that was the family.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then these people, and then the family got upset and started putting that stuff on their comments because apparently this guy murdered his wife.
Yeah.
Don't add them to the family. Don't add murderers to the family.
Don't add murderers to the family because they didn't want to have a picture of their murderous father in the tree on them. So
yeah, Brian, they're familiar with Arvada. That's where he's from.
Arvada.
They lived in Thornton for several years.
No, about your Brighton.
Yeah. And we got Rosa from Louisiana.
Wow.
Imagine it's hot and humid there too.
Oh.
All right, DNA. So there was a question on DNA.
Yeah. So somebody said, "Have you done DNA yet? You learn to live with heat and humidity like a what?" It's so true. I served my mission in New Jersey, and I remember being on the southern coast near Pennsylvania. I had a lot of people that came up to kind of have their summers from North and South Carolina, near the Jersey Shore. And even though they came up, they still said it was just a little bit better.
Yeah. If you have your living relationship,
I'll read them.
you have
read
those.
them. Okay.
Okay.
I've got it right
So, yeah, I had an email. I got a message, internal message from Amy, and it was about if you were in the Utah area recently, a few weeks ago, there were several articles that hit the news, and it was Deseret News and Salt Lake Tribune and Daily Herald and the Deseret News, Daily Herald, Salt Lake Tribune. I thought there was another one. And it was all about same-sex relationships in family tree.
Yeah.
And it was, we got in a little trouble for that. Not because of us, but because there was a post that was put out in the help system for internal missionaries, and it was what we were doing is we're updating the reason why we are going to do same-sex relationships in family tree. And the reason we're doing it, of course, is because we want the tree to be accurately represent current relationships and future relationships. And those types of relationships, same-sex relationships, are valid. It's happening.
They're real.
Matter of fact, we have some records in Wisconsin from the past that have same-sex relationships in them, and so we plan on supporting same-sex relationships. And for many church members, the first time they hear that can feel uncomfortable. Right. And I understand why that would feel uncomfortable, because the church itself, although, and I don't speak policy for the church, but
right, your views don't represent the views of the church.
Yeah, that's right, necessarily. But the church, doesn't discriminate that way. If a person is gay or lesbian or whatever. However, we don't perform same-sex relationship sealings in the temple. And so most of the questions that came out when this hit the newspaper articles, and it kind of ended up being a little problem, because we put a little comment in a support document, and somebody saw that from the LGBTQ plus community.
I see. And
they tweeted it around, and so then that caused the newspapers to see it and write articles, and then they show up at the church headquarters asking them what's going on. And of course, they didn't know that we changed this little thing, and we didn't realize it would
turn into a little bit of a PR.
Yeah, we didn't realize that anybody was paying attention to that. But
sure.
And so she's asking questions, and there's concerns, and understandably why that would be in the LDS community. But we will be supporting same-sex relationships. That means same-sex parents and same-sex spouses. We have several systems in our older systems in Family Tree that are not capable of supporting same-sex relationships because they look specifically for a man and woman in a spousal relationship, and a man and woman in a father-mother role. And those systems have to be rewritten, and we've already started the work of rewriting. But we're not expected to be done with the rewriting until early in 2019, and that's basically what we put in there, that we're doing it because it's genealogically relevant to our society, and we want to be able to accurately represent relationships as they existed in life, and we will represent those. But however, to make it clear to LDS church members who may be concerned that a church-sponsored site would provide this, it's because we're trying to be genealogically accurate. And as far as ordinances go, the plan is we will allow deceased people in the tree that are in same-sex relationships to have their individual ordinances. So they'll be able to have a B, C, I, and E, baptism, confirmation, initiatory, and endowment. But we will not allow sealings for sealings of a child to same-sex parents and sealings of spouses that are the same sex. So that's what we're planning on doing. I just want to make sure everybody aware of that. If those kinds of questions come up in your community or in your family history centers, now you can understand how to explain that why we're supporting it, because it's legit relationships, and what we're doing for temple ordinances. Because oftentimes when people hear that, they think, oh, well, we're going to start, the church is changing its stance on same-sex relationships and allowing them to be married and sealed and stuff like that. That's not the case. Okay, so just wanted to make sure everybody was clear on that. That was this question.
Mm-hmm.
She's asking me to reply, so I'll reply an email to her as well. I guess that's it on this one here.
Okay.
So
let's take a question from there.
What are our questions?
Have you done DNA?
Me personally or family tree?
The question was, have you done DNA? So let's talk about, have you personally used
personally,
DNA?
I've spit in the tubes. I was able to do that. So I spit it so I'd have the experience and understand what's going on. Sent in my tubes, and the missus did it too. And there wasn't any real big surprises.
We kind of already knew it was
it came back to something like 80 to 90% English, which was, I knew already.
Not surprising.
All my ancestors came from England, so that wasn't surprising. And there's plenty of connections. Now, the question you may be asking is, what is FamilySearch and Family Tree thinking about for DNA? And we're still evaluating. We have several partners who do DNA. We have partners that are interested in doing DNA. Some of us believe that DNA is sort of the ultimate record of a person.
It's easy to think that.
And because it has your genetic makeup, and there's some tests that you can use to determine, if you're a child of somebody or if you're a strong relationship to other people.
Right, ancestry, paternity, that kind
of stuff. Unfortunately, a lot of the DNA tests that are out there today don't really take advantage of really strong tests that prove things, like prove that this person was your father or this person was your mother, because those tests in the industry are still somewhat expensive.
Right.
And the companies like Ancestry and others, there are some that do that, but I gotta shut the door over here. Excuse me.
Sorry, our grandson's playing.
And there are some companies that do those tests, but their test kits are more expensive, and so that sometimes is prohibits people from doing that. But we're evaluating. We're trying to decide. We put a team together, and they spent the last 3 months analyzing DNA. What DNA? We have experts on DNA in our organization, and they're talking about the possibilities and what we might want to consider, and those things are being shared and expressed with church leaders to get their approval or direction on how they would like us to proceed. So as far as DNA in the tree, I think that from my perspective, you need to be very careful about changing anything in the tree based on the DNA, because a lot of the DNA that's out there is not that scientifically correct, because the tests they're doing are fairly generic, right? So, but I have no problem with you referring to DNA in the tree. If you have some DNA from some deceased person and you want to put it up somewhere on some site, we don't currently support storing DNA right now. But you could take that data, put it up, leave it on Ancestry, or put it somewhere else, or download it and put it somewhere else, and then put a source on a person and then a URL to that DNA data. That's perfectly acceptable to me. We have been seeing some people changing the relationships in the tree based on the DNA, and that's not correct to do that. DNA just gives you a probability of relationships. You really need to look at records and other evidence to prove that those relationships really exist. Because remember, we're documenting families as they lived, not families as they had children. And so I think we have to be aware that some families may not know that there's other kids involved or things like that, and we have to be conscientious of that and recognize we need to document the family as it's been documented in historical records. And just use the DNA to help give us clues to be able to where to search for other documentation. So I encourage you not to change the tree based on just DNA evidence, unless it's paternity DNA or something.
Right, unless you're going out there
Unless you're
going
actually
to a physician and getting a paternity test.
That's right. Then that's
reliable.
That's reasonable.
All right. And to be honest with you folks, I mean, he's been exploring this for a long time with the church, and I know it's easy to get lured in by the big new technology, that there's something great about it, and it certainly has potential. But from what I can see right now, they're still just in their infancy. They're just not completely investing fully as they could. You know? So anyway, that's where we are. We're still examining, and eventually we'll come out with what we decide. But we haven't decided yet. Okay. Warren says, why are we seeing so many SS and SPs being made available in FamilySearch? I'm going to assume, Warren, that you mean sealing the parents.
And I don't understand what you mean be made available. It's not like we deleted
available ordinances.
We didn't delete ordinances that were done.
Or withhold them. I think he's trying to say that there's suddenly he's got a bunch more to do.
No, you just found them. What happened is if you start looking in Family Tree, you'll see that there's sort of an era, there's a time frame when there were not any sealings of parents and sealing spouses done. Actually, the early church didn't do any of those. And actually, during a lot of the early 1900s to the 1950s, 60s, 70s, sealings, early 1894s to early 1900s.
I don't know what you're
even through probably into the 40s and stuff. The church just didn't really talk a lot about doing sealings for your deceased. Right. Most people were doing the BCIE and trying to do genealogy of ancestors backwards.
Sure.
And no one really dealt with sealings. As a matter of fact, the decision to do sealings the way we do today didn't occur until 1894, when Brigham Young announced in a general conference that we should be no longer just sealing to whoever we want to seal to. Before then, members of the church could not seal anybody beyond the oldest heir. So if I was the oldest person alive in my family line, I could be sealed to my father, but nobody else could be sealed. You couldn't go back any further. It wouldn't allow you to seal your father to his grandfather and grandmother. So it wasn't until 1894 when they started talking about that. Yeah, sealings for dead. And I just think it grew. It just didn't become a standard practice.
No, they just started putting the emphasis on the right syllable.
So it hasn't been until New FamilySearch really that there's been a lot of exposed ordinances that weren't actually done. So I'm assuming that's what you're talking about. They're legitimate relationships. The relationships are properly represented in the person, but it has a sealing is available. Just reserve them and do them. Now there are cases where something shows as sealed to parents, but you don't see the parents, and then there's the parents, you see them, and it says they're available. Now, if you're talking about that situation, then the problem there is there's a duplicate somewhere in the tree that represents that mother and father.
Right.
And so you need to find that duplicate, you need to merge them with the mother and father, and then that sealing will show up as done. And so remember, a sealing, all ordinances in Family Tree are associated to a PID. So if you got a child and he has a sealing to PID 1 and PID 2, but the PIDs that are on the child is PID 10 and 12, 10 and 11, then it'll show that the sealing needs to be done, because as far as the computer is concerned, even if the names are the same, the PIDs are different, therefore that's a different set of parents. So if you knew a sealing was done, but it's not showing up and there's parents there, then you need to look for a duplicate of the parents and then merge those together, and then that sealing will start showing up. Because when you merge, it merges all the ordinances together.
Right.
Did I answer enough of that?
Yeah, I think you answered enough of that.
Okay.
All right, so let's just take one of these questions from here. Cindy asks, I guess it's more like a suggestion.
Okay.
Wouldn't it be a good idea if there were 4 temple cards printed on a sheet of paper and we could spend less time cutting paper and wasting paper? It would be 2 cuts rather than 6. I think I can answer this one for you.
You've heard me answer it before?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
And when will we be able to share temple ordinance with the family group? And you can talk about that one. So get your little board out and start doing your drawing or whatever. When it comes to how the temple cards are printed, there's actually a specific reason as to why they're printed that way. And just correct me if I'm wrong. There are specific instances and situations in which somebody may not have the same technology that we have. Especially in the United States, we're blessed to be relatively well off. Most people have access to good printers and decent computers. But in some other places in the world that might still want to participate in temple ordinances, they might be a couple generations behind. And the technology that they're using is a little older. So they need to be able to print temple cards appropriately on the printer that they have. So you have to pick the best format that works for everybody. And while they played with printing them that specific way, when those other situations, they tried to get them to print them, they came out weird sizes.
Yeah,
not working,
that's
not
right.
printed right.
Although it's not necessarily other countries.
I'm just saying other areas.
There's a lot of people in the United States and
right.
Canada that have old printers.
You just got older. You get hung on to that.
Our printer's probably 5-7 years old.
Right. I was thinking about the other day. I went and got some auto parts from O'Reilly's, and they still got the dot matrix printer.
Yeah. So what happened is when we made the new cards that you print at home, the first version actually did do 4 cards on the paper.
Yeah.
And what happened is we got a ton of reports from people that they print, and they took them to the temple and they worked, but the cards, because of the printer and the PDF that we're sending them, it actually printed the cards about the size of a credit card.
Yeah, that'd be really tough.
And so it was really tiny, the size of a credit card, and then you should see the poor worker trying to scan that thing under the scanner. And the scanner barcode's like a little teeny thing. And so it was just causing all sorts of problems. We couldn't get it recorded. Since it was so small, the ink would smear.
Couldn't read the name super
couldn't read the name very well, the PID very well. They're using magnifying glasses to read them. So the temple department came back to us and said, this isn't going to work. So then we redid it in a 3-card format.
Still didn't work.
No, it worked fine. We went to 3-card format. I remember we actually found a lady who had this problem, and we tried a bunch of stuff and sent it to her, and she couldn't never get it to work, and we'd have her take pictures. So we ended up buying the exact same model of her printer and putting it in with the team, and they tested it, and when they discovered that, it's because the software on the printer could not handle the current PDF world.
Yeah.
Because it was a
out of date,
10-year-old printer, and so we had to move to 3 cards. So sorry, that's what we have to do, and that seems to work in most every case.
We hope you'll forgive us.
We haven't had anything, and it spends a little more ink and spends more cutting time, but sorry.
Recycle the paper.
Yeah. Anyway, that's why.
Okay.
We did start with 4, but we had to do it to 3.
Well, she had a second part to her question, which was, when will we be able to share temple ordinances with family groups?
You'll get that when we have family groups.
Oh, and when
we have no date for the family groups right now.
It's a future speculative.
No, we got a little prototype.
Well, I'm just saying it's future.
I have it running on my phone, the little prototype. We're not ready to have anybody try it yet or anything like that.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
We have no dates or anything like that. So we're just trying to prototype a little bit of it to see people's reaction. It's not complete. And then so anyway, I'll keep you informed.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, Sheila. Good to have you with us. Florence, Kentucky.
There you go.
All right. Let's just wrap these up because we only got 2 more.
Wow, we got people from all your places.
Yeah. Grace asks, why do you not have some guidelines for memories in FamilySearch? My husband's grandson has added every piece of paper he could get his hands on that belonged to my grandfather to his memories, and it's a mess.
I don't think guidelines would make any difference.
I don't think it would either.
I mean, what do we put in the guidelines? I don't know what we put in. So since we don't know what's important to the family, your family, because your family,
Everyone's different.
something may be very important, but to another family, it's, you know, just trash. Now, I realize that people start doing that. We even had people, you know, upload the entire rolls of film and stuff like that. We got one person that has like, how many was? It was something like 10 or 15,000 memories on them. And you could look at it. It was obvious that he just uploaded every picture he's ever had. He used us as a storage facility for his pictures and documents. It's just hard. It's almost impossible to come up with a guideline that means something. So we limit the number of memories that can be on a person to 1,000, and we hope that people choose the best 1,000 to do, and it'll work out. Your youngin, and she said had a kid.
You know, is her grandson.
Yeah, her grandson. He'll figure out that at some point in time he'll look at that stuff and say, "This is all junk. Why do I got this up there?"
Well,
this is how I remember my grandfather.
If I was going to say anything, I would say I remember when he first started giving presentations, one of the slides he used to share was a picture of an old barn raising. And the metaphor was, it's easy to get mad when someone doesn't necessarily hit the nail right. But not everyone can drive a nail. Not everyone can raise a wall. Some people are just going to be good at sweeping the floor. And sometimes the people that are sweeping the floor, they really want to be hammering the nail. And so they're going to give it a try. And the only way for people to learn how to do things is with steady guidance from experienced genealogists.
Yeah.
And we have to be okay letting people make mistakes so that they can get better.
Yeah.
As a community, the whole system gets better because everyone participates and has some skin in the game.
Yeah, and I would recommend that this grandmother talk to her grandson and just say, you know, grandson, what we really want to do is save the best, most interesting, most challenging. Those are the things that we, you know, what would grandpa want to tell his future generations? Would he really want to have him sitting here in his goofy hat with his face contorted and his tongue sticking out? You know, maybe one of those is enough. Pick the best of those set.
Sure, this could be an opportunity to
50 of them. You know,
right? This could be an opportunity to help them learn a little bit more about FamilySearch.
Yeah, and learn a little bit more about what's really important and what's the thing. Talk to them about, this is your grandfather's legacy to future generations.
Right.
What do you want to leave behind
for other people to see?
That tells people about what kind of person your grandfather is. And I think if you give them something like that, how do you want to remember him? And you may have some fun pictures because maybe he was a funny guy and plays with you and stuff. But you have to think these are memorials you're making for future generations. So talk to him like that, and then all of a sudden he'll understand what kind of things he ought to put on and what he should.
That's when that special spirit that comes when we do genealogy comes into it. That kind of connection to your family. Yeah. Anybody of any age, whether they be 1 or 100, I think can feel that. Yeah. If they understand what you're saying. So,
okay. One more, right?
One more, and we're done with this, and then back onto the comments.
We'll go to live. So if you have, once again, while he's looking it up, if you have some questions,
just throw them in the comments.
Throw them in the comments.
After we answer this one more question, we're going to be strictly comments from here on out.
Right.
Okay. Irene says, part of the article on FamilySearch entitled "No Close Living Relatives Available to Give Permission for Temple Ordinances" says, provide proof that no close family members are living. You can provide proof in 2 ways. Mentions the 2 ways, which is include information with sources, and blah, blah, blah. Does this mean that I have to get the death certificate for each deceased closing relative to get added to my request? When they review closest relative, what type of documents are they looking for?
I don't think they necessarily require death certificates.
No, I don't know.
But if you have these relatives in there, why wouldn't you want to put the death certificates on there as evidence
as a source,
of death,
right.
as a source of death? Certainly, if the person is 80, 90 years old, then usually just saying, well, I know them and they died this such and such a day and I was there.
Right.
And they'll take your word for it. What they don't want is just people to say because they're dead, or they should be dead, or they're old enough to be dead.
Yeah.
But if you have, I was there at the funeral and this is what happened, and that's good enough. But if you if you have the death certificates, I put them on there.
Might as well, right?
I just say, well,
make a source.
Yeah, we have family reunions every year, and a couple of years, and we were there at the funeral, and blah blah blah. And that'll probably be good enough.
Yeah,
just tell them what you have, and the death certificates are probably out there in the Social Security Death Index if it's in the United States.
Yeah, I mean it's public record.
So just go find the death certificates, attach them.
Yeah, it's not like you have to go off and get an official copy or anything. And Sherry, just to kind of point out, because you said Ron and the other guy, just want to introduce myself. I don't know if I've ever done that.
You have, but
I have. It's probably been too long. I need to do it every time or something. I'm his son. My name is Jared. I'm his youngest son, and my sister and I are the ones that help him out with this Facebook page and try to help answer questions, be here to assist him. It's just because he keeps a busy schedule, and sometimes it just need a little help in hand.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
My name is Jarrett, and he's Ron, father, son.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. What's our question?
Let's continue. So,
you're gonna go to Facebook.
Yes, we are. Let me just mark this one real quick, and off we go to the Facebook. All right. So, and I'm gonna scroll back here just a little bit. I have received an email from Facebook, or excuse me, FamilySearch recently. A few of your living relatives have volunteered to do the temple work for names you've reserved. Can you explain a little bit more about this type of email?
Okay. Yeah, several people got it. This is a new thing that a group is trying to help engage other people. So what they did is the following. They looked at people who had, they couldn't give me a definite number, but they told me people who had more than 150 or 200 ordinances or reservations on their reservation list.
Okay.
They looked for those people, and then they looked at the people on your reservation list, the PIDs of the reservation list, and then they looked at any users who haven't done any ordinances for a while or don't have a reservation list, and they looked at and said, are there any users in that situation that haven't done any ordinances in a while or don't have any reservations? Are any of them related to the same PID that's on your reservation list?
Right.
So they're a related person. And then they asked those, and then a few weeks ago, they did an email campaign to those people and said, would you be interested in helping a relative with their ordinances that you're related to, with people you're related to?
Sure.
And some said yes, and some said no, and some didn't answer. Those that said yes, then they took those people, and now they know that there's somebody out there that's interested in helping.
Right.
And they know what PID on your reservation list they're related to.
Right.
So then they sent an email to you and said, hey, there's some people that are relatives of yours that
would like to help.
That would like to help you in getting your ordinances done on your reservation list. And then when you clicked on the email, it sent you to a landing page, and that landing page showed you everybody on your reservation list that had one of these volunteers that was willing to help. And I think it showed also their contact name, and you could actually click and see how they were related to that deceased person. So you can say, oh, okay, this guy's a third cousin to my great-grandfather or something like that.
Right, or maybe it's something more immediate.
Yeah.
And you want to have.
And then you can click some buttons, and it would share the reservation with them, and then they could do the ordinances for you.
Yeah.
So that's what that was about. And it's been very interesting and exciting. Some people were kind of surprised by it. Personally, I was surprised because they didn't tell me about it. And I had somebody call me up and said, Ron, what's this stuff? And so I had to go do a little research and got it figured out.
That'd be a shocker.
Well, believe it or not, they don't all tell me the stuff they're doing. So
really?
They don't report to me, so they don't tell me.
Boom, mind blown.
So I go let them know, guys, you got to tell me about this stuff before you're doing it. So anyway, that's what's going on there. So it's a legit thing. I think it's nice. It's a good way to meet some other relatives of yours
that are participating,
that are interested to participate. I have heard a few that said, well, all they did was share it with the temple. Well, you don't want that. So, but you could tell them, hey, just send it back if you're not willing to do it.
Right.
But we've had some people that have contacted me says, this is great. I've met some new relatives. I've sent it to them. They're starting to do the ordinances, and so it can be very helpful. So that's what that is about.
Beneficial.
Yeah.
Okay. Cindy says, any chance they'll bring back showing every time a person is baptized, not just the most recent? She has some research she needs to do, and she would prefer to have the first baptism date.
The first my
when we have duplicate ordinances that are performed for people.
When the ordinances that are shown on the person page are the first ordinance of that type.
Not the most recent.
Not the most recent. It's the first one, because what we do
the one that actually took care of it.
Yeah, the ordinance tab on a person shows effective ordinances. An effective ordinance means the first one. So if a person was baptized 10 times, the baptism you're going to see on there is the very first one. So what you are seeing is the oldest baptism or oldest ordinance we have for that pit. Now, if you think you have an earlier ordinance, then that means there's probably a duplicate out there that needs to be found and merged together. But that's what we show is the earliest, the first one. First baptism, first confirmation, first initiatory, and first endowment.
Yeah. Okay. So Barbara Fox, she replied back to the question that was asked about the email that you got. Remember that?
Oh, the volunteer thing?
Yeah. And she said she got the same message. She was able to find the person who wrote her, and she was going to act as a proxy for the person in the week. She wrote back and said she was 4 hours away from the temple, so it's more effective for me to keep and do the ordinances. But I wondered, when did this start?
Oh, it was just like a week ago. It was the first time.
Is it something that's going to be ongoing?
I haven't heard, but I would imagine it'll have to continue.
I mean, I guess if it's effective, why not, right?
Yeah, if we find that there's people that haven't done, don't have any reservations or haven't done any temple work, start doing it, then yeah, we'll keep.
Might as well keep doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, that was a good question. Brian says, I was told that hints are 90% likely to be a correct match. That seems to be about right by my experience. Is that correct? How do you determine confidence? Are all indexed surfaces or all indexed records fed into this hinting system, or do you have to configure a data set to work with the hinting system? So let's pick this apart. Okay. So let's start with
90%.
Right, 90%. How do you determine confidence?
What we do is we do our algorithms to determine which hints match against which persons in the tree.
Sure.
And then we take a sample, a statistically significant sample of each set of collections, and we have them reviewed by an expert in that area.
Sure.
You having a problem? You need to get up.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I just my belt's just digging into my belly a little bit.
Okay. So then we do a statistical review, and that's where we come up. It's actually more than 90%. They tell me it's somewhere between 96 and 98. I think in some cases it feels like it's worse than that, but for the most part, it turns out to be fairly well. And let's see, that's the first part. What was the second one?
Second part is, are all indexed records fed into the hinting system? Or do you configure a specific data set? So basically, are all the records going through hinting, or is there a subset of data that filters some records out and picks some to use in the hinting?
No, all records are
pass through.
All index records go through the hinting system, are fed into the hinting system. It doesn't
necessarily mean they end up getting a hint.
That's correct. That's correct.
But they're all, at least they all are attempted to match.
That's right. So what we do is we have a giant system, and we fill that system with all the persons in family tree, and then we fill it with all of the historical records that we have indexes. And every month we update that system with a new set of records that have been published. So we don't do it on the fly. We do it every month. And we put both of those sets together. We let them do their few trillion calculations, several trillion calculations they have to do to match and mix and see it. And then we test it. And if we see things that aren't very good, we'll tweak the algorithms a little bit and do it again until we get the quality level that we want. Now, just because it's 97% correct doesn't mean it's really the same family. It could be a family that has a lot of exactly the same names, and the years are off by a little bit, right?
You can share. I mean, in our family, I think we said this last week even. We've got Martin Henry and Henry Martin Tanner.
Right.
They're two separate people.
Right.
They were born a couple days apart, and they died a couple days apart.
Right.
Were they cousins? Is that what it was?
They were cousins.
Cousins, Henry Martin and Martin Henry.
Yeah, no, those aren't the same person, but they get, they'll get a 97%.
Right, match, because they've got all the names on there.
That's right.
They were born within a couple days of each other.
Right.
They died within.
Right.
There's got to be the same person.
Right.
But
there is one thing I'm going to request from you all, though, because I'm still suspicious about this particular algorithm. So if you find examples where this isn't working very well, it's primarily obituaries or could show up in other places. We recently put in the algorithms a couple of hint engines ago where it looked at the lining up of the names of the families. So this record against this person, it may line up and all the names look very much alike, but the dates are way far off. I need some examples of those. If you have a case where the hint is given to you and you look in the source linker and the names all look kind of the same, but the dates are way off, or the places are way off, then I need you to send me those examples in email, ron@FamilySearch.org, and send me the PID of the person that was on and the URL of the record if you can. And then that will help improve our algorithms.
So you guys you hear that? You get to have a chance to participate and help him improve the stuff?
That's right. Because I think I saw some of these when we first put it out. I talked to the team about it. They did some tweaks, but my gut tells me it's
something's
still out there a little bit. And so I need some examples if you find some of those.
Perfect.
So was there any more on that question?
No,
Did I get it out?
You're good. You're good. Okay. Barbara is again participating. Someone else. She says, I found a mistake when a mistake is input into a PID that many of the hints will be a mistake too. But once it's corrected, the hints end up being a little bit more correct. But
that's right.
Of course,
certainly, if the data is bad on the person, then you're going to get hints that match the bad data.
Right. Bad data begets bad data.
That begets bad hint. Well, it gives you hints that match that bad data.
Right. Okay. Brian says he really likes the various campaign emails FamilySearch sends out, the ones about pioneers, early Relief Society members, etc. But he was wondering if you ever planned to maybe have a place where those are at, where he could actively go and get them.
Yeah, we've talked about that before. And I keep telling them, and the team that does that hasn't spent the energy to do that. There is, you can go to the consultant planner. You can put your name in the consultant planner.
Don't you have to be a consultant?
No, you have to be a member of the church is all. So if you're a member of the church, you can go to consultant planner under help, and you can put your own name in there. And it'll show you the campaigns that you've been sent, the Pioneer and all those others. And you can click it and basically go see that Pioneer. Some of them are standard. It's I don't know. If there's a couple of them you're interested in, you can send me an email and I'll find out the URL and post it on Facebook. The URL doesn't change for the Pioneer and others. It's static. So if it comes around next time, I just bookmark it so you can go back to it.
I mean, at the end of the day, he's trying.
A lot of people have asked that question, and I keep passing it on, and the team's not spending any time building that.
But it is something that's on their radar. On your radar.
I can't even say that. I've told them I think it needs to be done.
It's on your radar.
It's not my responsibility to do it, but they're kind of dragging their feet on it.
She says Karen also says she likes the campaigns, but she'd like to see them come before Sunday morning. Yeah, well, it's probably not going to happen. Let me tell you why. Because we've sent campaigns during the week. We send them on Wednesdays. We send them every day of the week. And we get the best response on Sunday
when we send them early Sunday morning. We send them out like 4 o'clock in the morning, Utah time. And if we do that, we get more open and more people doing things in family history than any other day of the week.
It's like people have gospel stuff on their mind.
They got gospel stuff, or they're not going to work. They've
had the weekend to calm down.
Yeah,
just kind of perusing.
It's a day when most people click and go. So that'll probably not change. We do occasionally send little small sets of campaigns during the week, Wednesdays and Thursdays, but we generally target Sunday morning.
All right. Well, Pat says, are there several levels in the agreements we have with partner companies? For example, I have trouble with Find My Past wanting me to upgrade to view certain databases.
Oh, yeah. Well, almost all partners do not give us all their records.
Right.
I mean, we do record sharing deals where we give them records and they give us records, but I'm not aware of any partner that gives us all their records.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, that wouldn't
just like we don't necessarily give all our records to partners.
Right. Either. It's just not.
And so then they do that.
Not good for business.
They do that because they want to upsell you. We
Right.
want to get you the.
It's not good for business. I mean, I can tell you as a salesperson, you want to have something that you can sell.
That's right. So
If you give it away for free, it's
Right.
no longer something you can sell.
right,
So,
we cut deals. They get some of the records. We get some of their records, or we get you an account, and you go over there, and they're going to want to upsell you to records you don't normally.
the good news
That's their income.
is you still have the advantage of getting your foot in the door.
Well, and you get all the records that are part of the agreement from
Right.
them, which
So-
are usually records we don't have. So
Right. So, I mean, while, yes, I mean, Pat, you may be missing out on, you said, the new Catholic records in Philadelphia and Chicago. But the good news is at least you're getting some of it. I would maybe suggest thinking a little bit more like, I don't know, maybe
just
doing
think it's
some
up-
research.
it's up to you if you want to pay
Yeah.
for it.
I mean,
get
you
those
could do that,
records
but
and
I
get
was
them.
just trying to think of a way he could work around it. I mean, maybe you could work with a consultant who does research and try to see if maybe you could find those records elsewhere. So if they're in the system, they had to exist somewhere else before.
That doesn't
usually.
necessarily mean, yes, most of the companies don't make the records. They're coming from governments and so our churches, and there may be another place that you could see those for free. I don't know.
Yeah.
You'd have to talk to, like you said, a consultant or a researcher to see if those records are available someplace else.
Yeah. Okay. I've heard so many people say lately that we shouldn't perform ordinances for in-laws family. If no one is doing their work and we have no living spouse, child, or sibling, shouldn't someone do their work?
Well, right now, the church's policy on doing ordinance is you do who you're related to. And related is somewhat defined as, your direct line up and your direct line down.
Blood.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's mixed and you go down.
Sure.
So you can do up and you can do down, and you can't go back up. So you can go up, and you can do, I should probably draw this.
Yeah,
It's
just
probably
draw it.
worth drawing.
Draw it out. Got to get the whiteboard out. First time. First time in the night. Look at that. You asked a stumper.
No, it's not a stumper. It's just
It's a thinker.
it's a visualizer is better.
Visualize. Got the squeak of the marker. You know what I love? Is I get to see the drawings before they end up there, so I get to see his mind calculating, the gears turning, the dust getting shaken off from the long day.
Okay.
The artist comes out.
All right. So here's the first case, and I'll give you the basic rule of thumb. Gosh, I should have done that.
Just
Hold on.
do that.
Relax.
Okay.
Relax.
All right. Just go stay above the half mark.
All right. How's that?
I think that'll do it.
Okay, here's general rule of thumb how you decide it. The policy says you're supposed to take people who you're related to. So this is you, and this is your father, this is your grandfather, great grandfather. If this is the person that needs temple ordinances, you're good to go. Okay, you're good to go because it's direct line up. Right? Now, the other option is if you go back down, then you are allowed to do, I guess you probably do it over here. Trying to make it so it doesn't take as much space. All right.
Like I said, it's just fun to watch
Make it
you.
harder.
It's just kind of fun to watch you calculate.
Okay. So here's the other option. It says you can go up. This is the same people. I just didn't draw out the circles. So you can go up a person, up to the same person. This is this person at the top of that pyramid is this person over here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you can go up and back and then down. So I got to get it over here so I can reach it with this other hand. Isn't that crazy? So you go up to this person, and then you go down. And when you go down, you're doing descendancy stuff. Okay?
Right.
So now you're doing descendancy. You can do your descendant, your descendant's spouse, and all of their children, and all of their descendants.
So we're removed now.
So you're removed, but you're still considered related. And the reason you're considered related is because of this common ancestor. right?
Yeah, it's the common link.
This is your common ancestor between that family that you want to do and yourself. Is that? There you go. Is this particular? I got to figure out which way is up. That particular common ancestor is the key. So if you take the person you want to take to the temple and you look at you and you both work backwards, you have to hit. You have to hit the same common ancestor. If you hit the same common ancestor, then you're considered related and you're good to go. This is where there's a problem. If you go up and then you go down and now you want to go up again, okay, so in this case over here, I'm sorry, I should have written it bigger in the first place. So in this one, here's this family, the spouse, and 4 kids. But if you turn around, we want you to complete this whole family. Okay, so one of the things in that family is to seal the spouse to his or her parents. And you can do that, but you cannot do the ordinances of her parents. Why? Because you don't have a common ancestor with that set of parents.
Yep.
Now, I have people say stuff like, well, Noah and Adam, and my answer is that doesn't count unless you have certified documentation that says that that person's related to Noah. And you're related to Noah. And there isn't such a thing.
Good luck.
There isn't such a thing. So, so that means you are able to do your line up and your line down, and you should not be doing this and going up this person's line and start doing these people, right? Because you're not related to them because there's no common ancestor between them and you.
You're way over
So
in the weeds now.
What did it? Read me the question again. Make sure I answered it.
It was really just you went a little bit further than you needed to.
Well, I'm explaining.
Yeah, we just basically wanted to know whether it was okay to do your in-laws work.
No, the answer is no.
There you go.
Well, hold it. No, you can do your in-laws because you're married to your spouse.
So it's a direct.
So you're helping your spouse do their line, and that's perfectly fine.
I believe Robin, if I'm not wrong, she's just saying if no one's doing their work or they have no living spouse, child, shouldn't somebody be doing it? And the answer is yes.
Well, no, hold a minute here. Let's clear up things.
Let's read it one more time.
I understand. I'm going to answer it properly.
Okay, you want me to read it one more time?
No.
Okay.
You can do your line, and you can do your spouse's line. Okay.
What about a spouse that's passed? Still spouse, right?
Still a spouse. You can do your line. You can do your spouse's line. You can do foster line, and you can do adoptive lines. And so if your spouse, if this was your spouse, and whether they're alive or not, doesn't matter, you can do your spouse's line if you were married to it.
Very good.
There may be some questions that people may ask if you're, well, no, that's the rule of thumb is you can do your spouse's line. Now, I don't, if there's divorce involved, then that may beg to ask a little questions there about that, whether you should or shouldn't. But you can do your in-laws because you're married with your spouse. Okay?
Okay. Warren Smith wants to know if people can volunteer to be beta testers for the family groups.
Well, I'm not taking any volunteers right now, but if we do, I'll certainly let you all know.
Okay. And Brian, in your conversation that you said, don't do temple work for in-laws. I mean, obviously we want to respect the family's wishes and we want to let the family have an opportunity to do that first. But at the same time, we shouldn't necessarily want.
Bye. Now, if you're doing your in-laws, you're going to hit the 110-year rule on the in-laws.
Yeah.
Because you're not a child or the in-laws. So if you try to do your in-laws and they're deceased, you're going to hit the 110-year rule, and the rule is now you have to get permission from some close living relative, and that would be spouse, siblings, or adult children.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you can't just do your in-laws unless they died more than 110 years ago, which is probably not likely.
Yeah. Sheila says, I've shared ordinances with the temple. I used to live in Alaska, moved to Kentucky. Do my ordinances I shared with the temple district move with me when I move to a different district?
Yes, they do. Because what we do is when it comes time to gather names to give to the temple, that's when we look at what unit your membership record resides in.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
We only do it at the time that we're going to share the ordinances.
You're actually going to take it and use it.
Take it and use it. That's when we look.
Okay. Carl says, I'd like to be able to add a link to a memory to other related memories. For example, have a high resolution color scan of a document. I'd like to link the document to the low resolution black and white of distant cousins that others have uploaded. I can't force distant relatives to delete, but I'd like someone who comes to know that there are documents that potentially are duplicate, or maybe there's a better version. Basically like grouping sources or albums. He says he would prefer not to have to do an album, but being able to maybe group documents together.
Well, I don't think you should feel bad detaching.
If you have a more improved,
if you have an improved version of it, it's a better copy. You can read it better. It's in color. And
what about if it's in a memory where you can't edit someone else's memories?
You can always detach a memory from a person in the tree.
Thank you for clearing that up.
So what I would do is I would say we already have a better copy on the person, so I detach this so that people don't get confused thinking it's two different documents.
Right, and in the
send a message to the person. Say
like in the reason statement for the detach, you can even include, maybe you could put a link in that
to the other
document. Say uploaded better version of document found here. Click and they can click it and see that
you'll see the memory you uploaded.
Right,
that's what I would do. I wouldn't try to keep all these copies around. That's
duplicate.
Yeah, if they don't, you can't read them or anything, you might want them.
They don't live in the age of triplicate anymore. Okay, we're winding down.
We are.
Oh, sorry, I can't do that. Yes, don't do that. You got in trouble last time.
And,
okay, but did you like it?
I used to be really good.
But you get him like a fidgety toy, you can't handle it.
Then I got bad.
I'm just trying to scan through this one and see if it's a question. It doesn't really sound like it. This one doesn't really sound like a question either. All right, Orrin, 2 questions. My temple is closed for remodeling right now, but I'm seeing shared with temple ordinances being printed by a temple for the work to be done. How does that work? So you have a district which has got more than one temple in it.
No, a temple district is only one temple.
Well, but if that temple's closed, then shared stay, or do they shift? He's saying he's seeing them printed somewhere else.
Okay, the only way that an ordinance that you shared for the temple gets printed and done in another temple is if that other temple needs some of those ordinances and you happen to be the oldest ordinance in the pile. Then it'll take your ordinance and have that temple do it. So we're not going to starve another temple who needs baptism, female baptisms or something, because nobody in their district doesn't have a female baptism. We'll just take it from another district and they'll do it.
Right. So the best way I can explain it is like thinking like a series of jars. You got a jar for each district, and some might have more of this or that, X or Y. Right. And this one needs a Y, and they say, oh, well, this one has a bunch of Ys. We'll just kind of go in there and get it out. But of course, that jar, if they don't need it, they're not going to take it from it.
That's right.
So it'll stay there unless another district needs it. So second question, he has many shared with the temple ordinances that are not being selected before new are submitted. How can that be happening?
We have a flaw in our system that will catch you now and then. It doesn't happen very often, but it does happen, where a temple reservation ordinance could be stuck. And we used to take calls from people, and we go in and unstuck it.
You gotta get it's like those log jams they used to have. It's down on the log. You gotta poke it with the stick to get the log undone.
Right. But we're not going to do that anymore. We're not going to take those requests, and because we're rewriting it all. Because we're rewriting it all, and we're changing the architecture of the system, so it will never have this problem again. So the problem we're doing now is we do a push. So we say, here's a confirmation. The baptism just got done. Then I'm going to push this over here to the ready spot. Well, what happens is it gets pushed to the ready spot, but some failure occurs and nobody gets told. No, the system doesn't get told that this is sitting in a ready state, and so it just gets stuck. And what we're doing is we're going to change it so all the ordinances are in one place, and when a temple needs it, they come and say, give me that one, and takes it. So the give me it will always work, because they have to receive it, and if they don't receive it, then there's a big alarm bells go off and all that kind of stuff, because
the world starts to burn.
Yeah, because they didn't get satisfied.
Yeah.
So we're changing the architecture. It's going to take us most of this year and part of next year to get done. But so hang tight. And then what'll happen is you'll see these ones that were old all of a sudden start getting pulled. That feel like they're stuck. All of a sudden they'll start be unstuck. And they'll be some of the older ones, so they'll go first.
Okay.
1 second.
Well, we've reached an hour.
Yes, we have.
Now, I just want to say I really absolutely appreciate everyone's participation tonight. We wouldn't have had anything to read from if you guys hadn't have. So any of you that didn't get your questions answered, I'd ask if you could just, you've been with us this long, take a couple minutes, step back onto our Facebook page, go up to the top, find that the question answer link, and just throw your question in there real quick. I don't care if you copy and paste it. But if you guys get it on that list, one, you're assured it will get answered.
Yeah.
Because I can't copy and paste all of these. I don't have the time to do them. And two, if you didn't feel like your question maybe got answered well enough, or you'd like us to revisit it again from a different angle, just throw it back on there. Because we're going to use the same list every video. Like you see, it takes precedence over comments. But of course, we try to balance things out. You know, we want people who are actively participating to get a chance to get their questions answered. So if you get a minute, go over, grab your questions, throw it on the list so we have some for next time. And in regards to next time, we're going to be posting them on our calendar like we've done these last two. I don't know if
we have one
scheduled him
scheduled yet. I don't think we've got August scheduled.
We need to schedule him in his calendar, and then the second we get those scheduled in his calendar, we will schedule them on Facebook so that everyone can know.
Yeah, we may do only one in August because I'm presenting at BYU Family History Conference on a Friday of that BYU Family History Conference. That's in like a couple weeks.
Right.
And then I'm presenting all during Education Week.
He's got a lot of stuff.
So I got two conferences I'm presenting at in August.
Now, out of curiosity, neither of these will be available online?
No, they don't record them.
Okay.
So.
Well, I mean, we can see, but we can do them out. I don't know.
We might be able to find a slot, but I don't know if we'll find something in August. So don't expect the same two every month in the month of August. Just because I'm doing those other conferences.
But we might be able to do something like we might be able to upload your slide deck or something.
Yeah, or we might be able to do one.
Who knows?
Depending on if I got my slides done.
Yeah, he's got some work to do. But my point is we might be able to be in a position to upload some of those presentations. Maybe we could record a part of it. Maybe we could. Who knows? Who knows what we could do? But we might be able to find something. But it sounds like we're going to do one live in the month of August, and then we'll maybe upload some of that
stuff. We'll see if we can find out a way to do it.
We wholeheartedly appreciate your participation. Of course, absolutely. And if you have questions, Q&A form. If you have immediate needs that you want to address in a private matter, just send us a message and we'll get right to it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Gotta find the mouse.
Well, you gotta wake it up.
Where is it? There it is.
All right. We'll see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Not done.